Have you ever questioned your decisions on database choices, input-output choices, and networking and communication solutions? If so, you are a good architect or an engineer and you have avoided premature decisions which could otherwise significantly impact the maintenance of your applications. In today's video, I am going to walk you through component boundaries in clean architecture, another important concept which helps you to organize the components in your architecture, keeping your implementation options open until they are actually required. We will be covering what component boundaries are and why they are important, some misconceptions around them, what plugin architecture is, and some action steps for you. So let's get started. Component boundaries are distinct separations or divisions between components that helps us defer their implementation decisions. For instance, at the very early stage of the project, we only have requirements related to business rules, but we do not have a clear understanding of database or GUI requirements. So we can separate business rules and work on its implementation while keeping our options open for database and GUIs. For instance, as requirements evolve, we could move to a web-based GUI with relational database, a mobile GUI with NoSQL database, or even a web-based GUI with NoSQL database. As we can see, the presence of clear boundaries really help us defer those implementation decisions to a later time. Why are they important? Component boundaries are also called axes of change because these components change at different times, at different rates, and for different reasons. Additionally, they help us identify components which depend on others and components which are immune to others. As you can see, business rules change rarely, while GUI and database changes are more frequent. There are some serious misconceptions we are going to consider next, and we often tend to take premature decisions based on these misconceptions. First misconception is that database matters to business rules. We tend to believe that business rules rely on database structure and mechanism. However, what matters to the business rules is a mechanism to extract certain records from storage. The storage could be SQL, NoSQL, graph, flat files, or even in memory and has no impact on business rules. For this reason, we include a database interface applying dependency inversion principle in the business rules component, which provides abstract mechanisms for record retrieval regardless of database structure. The other misconception is that input-output matters to business rules. Because of this misconception, we sometimes tightly couple outputs such as GUIs with business rules. But let's see how we can separate these two components. For instance, if you consider a gaming application, essentially all business rules related to the game, such as event triggers, character and object movements, can all be implemented in the code in the business rules. GUI will interact with business rules using abstract interfaces. The concrete implementation of GUI could be web-based, gaming console-based, or even mobile-based, and it does not matter to business rules. The next misconception is that networking and communication matters to business rules. Business rules would just require some interface to connect with internet or other third-party tools. The concrete mechanism could be REST APIs, WebSocket or GraphQL, etc. and it does not matter to business rules. All these discussions lead us to the plugin architecture where we can plug in concrete implementations of components as requirements evolve. If we have clearly marked our boundaries, it makes it easy to plug in different implementations. For instance, some client requirements of our system would direct us towards a relational database, while another set of requirements would guide us towards a NoSQL database. Similarly, one set of client requirements would require a web-based GUI, while another would require a mobile-based GUI. Same for the networking solutions. I don't mean to say that the change from one implementation to another would be trivial because there would be significant implementation changes. However, by separating components and using a plugin architecture, we have at least made it practically possible. Next, let us see some action steps we can take to properly mark component boundaries and get better use of them. First of all, I want you to identify components that change at different times, at different rates, and for different reasons. This is clear indication of axis of change and component boundaries. Next, where have you made decisions prematurely? Maybe you picked a relational database because that is what you used in a previous project, while database requirements were not yet fully finalized. Then you can see if you can reverse any of those decisions to keep those options open. This will help you save time and effort in implementing future business rules changes, keeping them independent from database. Next, how can you benefit from a plugin architecture so that different client requirements can be served with different plugins? Most importantly, in fresh projects, avoid premature decisions on databases, input-output, networking mechanisms, etc. Attempt to identify axis of change and component boundaries. Implement a plugin architecture for versatility. If you like this content, please like, comment, share and subscribe for similar content. Also mention in the comments what topics you would like to learn next. See you in another video. Until then, happy coding.